Welcome back to another new episode of Campus Stories here on RMU TV. I'm your host Vince Russo, and we have an awesome show planned for you today. Today we are fortunate to be joined by two veterans that are also students here at Robert Morris University. They've taken the time out of their busy schedules to join us today. And with that, we welcome in Art Russell and Zach Cosnati. Thank you guys for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So just to start, take a moment, gentlemen. What are your titles when you were in service, and exactly what did you do in the military?
Whenever I got out, I was a team leader and a CBRN NCO. That just means I was in charge of all the chemical and radiation equipment for the company. And as a team leader, you're in charge of 3 soldiers, constantly training and preparing them for any situation that you may eventually encounter down the road.
I was a fire control technician, 3rd class. I maintained, fixed, and operated the radar system that controls the 76mm cannon on the front of the ship. I had a bunch of other responsibilities on top of that. I had a duty gunner's mate, flight deck firefighting, dewatering, boarding team member, quartermaster. Coast Guard, they say that they have one guy for 5 jobs, and the Army has 5 guys for 1 job.
Now, I was just going to get to this question, but it sounds like you were out on the water a lot, but where exactly were you guys stationed at throughout your careers with the military?
Good, Mr. Waterman.
Okay. My ship was out of Seattle, and that's where I spent most of my time. I did do boot camp in Cape May, New Jersey, and I was at the small boat station there for a while. Then I went to Petaluma, California for A school in electronics, and then Yorktown, Virginia for C school on the radar. And then I got my ship out of Seattle. It was a nice ship, right at downtown was where we moored up. And we would sail up into the Bering Sea and do search and rescue for the crab fishermen, or we'd go down south and do drug interdiction. And that's pretty much everywhere I sailed. Singapore, Hawaii, Australia.
Hawaii, I'm jealous. I started off in Fort Benning for my OSUT training, home of the infantry. Then I was stationed in Fort Hood, Texas for about majority of my 3 years, not counting the little over 10 months I spent in Basra, Iraq.
And what was it like spending time in these different locations around the world?
Benning was miserable. Benning was just straight up miserable, ain't no way around it. Hood had its ups and downs. It was fun. Its location was great. Central Texas, Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, Houston, everything was within a reasonable shot to go to. Iraq, different story. It's not a country you'll ever go to visit for vacation, let me say that.
Do you think it was as bad as the media has portrayed it throughout the years?
It's worse than I thought it was whenever I went over there, even with all the expectations and what they plan you, prepare you for. When you get there, it's still a culture shock. It's still different than what you envision in your mind whenever you get there.
I actually loved sailing up in Alaska. I saw like 35-foot swells, 65-foot rogues, buried the ship under 30 feet of water. They have that phosphorescent algae that glows in the dark when you irritate it. Snowball fights in the middle of the Bering. Some days I woke up and it was so foggy you could throw a penny and not see it hit the water. Down south, completely different, flat, miserable, hot. I didn't feel like I was sailing. I felt like I was just tied to the pier. It was so flat. But they let you go swimming, so in fish call, so that was nice. And I turned 21 in San Diego, which was awesome. Seattle, I love Seattle. No humidity, doesn't get hot, doesn't get cold. The Coast Guard base was right across the street from a brewery, so that was a good place.
Perfect for your 21st birthday.
No, 21st was in San Diego.
No, my bad.
So what made you guys want to choose to go into the military? What started it all off for you when you were around my age, an 18, 19-year-old kid?
I had no desire whenever I graduated high school to do any military. Whenever I thought about going into the Navy, whenever I talked to them, but at that time, I'm afraid I don't want to go to war, do any of that stuff. Then 14 years later, I go and I join specifically to go to war as infantryman. It was a regret that I never did it when I was younger, and just the opportunity was there. Now was the best time to do it, now or never. Was tired of having that as a regret on my shoulder.
I had no desire to go to college. And I read books about like the old search and rescue of the Coast Guard and how they said, like, they say you have to go out and try to save a life. They say nothing about coming back. And, you know, being an 18-year-old kid, you're like, F yeah, you know? But I also didn't have the opportunity or the money to go to college, so that was another reason why I joined.
Nice censorship.
Yeah, you see how long it took me to pause?
I was so impressed.
Did you have any family background in the military that sort of also played an influence?
At the time, I was unaware that I actually had uncles who were in Vietnam. I knew I had a cousin who was in the Navy, but at the time that I joined, I was unaware that I had uncles who had served prior.
I have an uncle that was in Vietnam. I have a grandfather that was in the Army during World War II. He got a Bronze Star. My great-grandfather was in World War I. So Army, yes. Coast Guard, not so much the history there.
Starting a trend.
Yeah.
Well, we will be right back with more from our two veterans and guests, so sit tight.
These boys are my heroes. They come every week to spend time with my children.
At Robert Morris University, every student is expected to reach out to others.
They can teach them something no one else can.
Wisconsin.
They're role models to the children, and homework comes way before sports. Their grades have improved, and their lives are just a bit richer.
Okay.
What they do for my kids is truly wonderful.
Change someone's life. It changes yours forever. Robert Morris University.
I call them my lifeline.
People don't realize how quickly you can end up on the street. One thing happens in your life, medical bills you can't pay, you lose your job, and that's it.
At Robert Morris University, every student is expected to reach out to others.
We went to DC to work with the homeless. They sell a newspaper called Street Sense. Thought I'd help.
But if you want to give more, you can.
This person came up to me and said, "Get a job." And for 2 hours, I felt what it was like to be homeless.
Good morning. $1 help on.
Some of the other students said, "How can we change this?" And I said, "Sometimes you can't change the world, but you may be able to change one person's world." My dream? Open a psych clinic for people on the street.
Change someone's life. It changes yours forever. Robert Morris University.
Welcome back. You're watching Campus Stories on RMU TV. Today we are talking to Art Russell and Zach Cosnati, two veterans studying here at RMU. Thanks again for your time, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So what brought you guys to Robert Morris University?
Well, when I left military, college was not plan A. It was plan B. Plan A was to get into law enforcement, and I took the testing, and it just didn't fall in my favor. So plan B was schooling, but I had no idea what I wanted to do or where I wanted to go. Talked to a few friends who've been at Robert Morris, and they said it was a good idea to go there, so I looked into it, and I saw they had the Yellow Ribbon program, and I was like, that's definitely the place I'm going to go to, so I don't have to worry about any really out-of-pocket expenses, because the GI Bill will cover all that for me.
Basically, I called Dan Rhoda down at the vet center, and I said, how much will it cost me to go to Robert Morris? And he said, nothing. And I said, do I need to redo my SATs or ACTs? And he said, nope, you just have to get your high school transcript and your military transcript. I'm like, so I can go there for free? He goes, yep. I'm like, all right, I'll see you Monday.
So what exactly are you guys studying here?
I'm going for computer security and cyber forensics. The title just caught my attention. I was like, yeah, sounds cool, let's do that one.
I'm actually going for economics. Every time I restart in life, I usually pick something different and new, and economics seemed like it was different and new and constantly changing.
Now, in comparison to a traditional undergrad, what kind of responsibilities do you juggle along with your life with school?
Well, work like most people do. Got a son at home too. So it's a balancing, juggling act to try to get everything flowing nice and easy. Sometimes it works, and other times it's just complete chaos and hectic.
Nothing. I don't have kids that I know of. I don't really have that many bills. I did have to move back home, which sucked. Not a fan of that, but that's saving me money until I can get out. I got my monthly stipend. I will say the biggest thing was how to deal with the younger students. I kind of felt like I was going to go to jail if I looked at a girl wrong, you know. So the vet center helped out a lot with that, because I would hang down there and, you know, you would talk and similar stories, sea stories, war stories, joke around, similar sense of humor. So that really helped me in the transition.
Going there and being able to relate to people with similar experiences. Instead of coming here, like you said, most of them are like 18, 19. Here I am about to turn 36. And a little different story. Being able to relate and going down to the vet center is a huge relief.
And how many veterans have come back and used the Yellow Ribbon program here at Robert Morris?
I think right now there's 250 enrolled. I don't know how many since it started, because the Yellow Ribbon program started in 09?
Got me, man.
I think it's 09 or 2010. I don't know how many's been through here. I know I have a couple friends that went through Robert Morris on the Yellow Ribbon program. But, I mean, most of these guys, you don't see them because they go home to their wives or kid and job. So they just come do their thing and leave.
Yeah.
So what tools did the military give you that you've seen pay off and pay dividends during your tenure here studying at Robert Morris?
You got patience. Definitely develop patience. And the common thing that's always pushed is no matter what you encounter, no matter how tough you think it really is, it can always be a million times worse. So whatever you're dealing with, you just suck it up and just push through, and you can always achieve whatever you set out to do. Whether you come to an obstacle and you think, man, this is really too tough, I can't do this, just push that out the window and you just drive on and on through it.
For me, I think it's the structure. Like, you know, I wake up, I do my routine every day, and I think that's probably the biggest benefit that the military gave me. And I think the other thing is, like what you were kind of saying, is you have the mentality of you just have to do it.
Yeah.
You don't gripe about it.
If ands or buts, just do it.
Yeah, that's probably the two biggest things I've gotten from my military experience when going here.
So what was it like going from civilian life to military life? And then on the flip side, what was it like going from military life into a college setting?
I'll tackle that one.
The biggest obstacle for me right off the bat was completely different atmosphere. I was infantry, so you're around nothing but guys all the time, and so the language gets accustomed there. And once you leave there, you got to learn to dial it back in and be more aware of your surroundings and who is around you and your language. That was probably the quickest adjustment that I had to make.
Going from civilian to military, they don't give you an option. They just beat you until you agree. So I was surprised because I had never really liked authority, so I was surprised with how easily I accepted the military. Coming from the military into college, I had about a 5-year hiatus. I got out in 07, and I did jobs and, you know, construction jobs, traveling jobs. I installed video cameras and cop cars around the country for a while, so did like 5 years of heavy drinking. And now I'm actually more structured to deal with. I don't think I could have gone from the military straight into college.
And you talked a little bit about the tools that helped you thrive here, but are there any things within the lifestyles between being in the military and being in college that are somewhat alike?
You got time hacks. Everything is, you get assignments, you have a deadline to get it done with. Military, everything's a deadline. You get something pushed to you, you got to do it then. 5 minutes from now, you have to have it done. No matter if it's reasonable, you still got to do it. Here, you have assignments, papers. Sometimes you think like it's too much, but either way, it's got to get done. So that time frame, you've been doing it for so long. It's like no big deal. Time hack, knock it out, get it done.
I agree with that. I like the professors that have very strict deadlines. The professors that are more lackadaisical with their approach, usually I'll end up missing something, didn't know it was due, or along those lines. So I guess that's one of the things I liked.
Well, we have to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more campus stories. Don't touch that dial.
Nicaragua is a completely different world. We were there to bring nursing care to some desperate people.
At Robert Morris University, every student is expected to reach out to others.
The very first person that I met was David. Kept saying, "You have to come to my house and watch me play my trumpet." You could tell from the look on his face that it was just his most prized possession. I get back home. A few weeks later, I got a message that a gang had broken into his house at night and they stole it, which was his life. So next trip back, we gave him a new one. The look on his face was just complete disbelief. He just absolutely couldn't believe it. And to be able to do something like that is one of the best moments of my life. He said he'd never forget us.
Change someone's life. It changes yours forever. Robert Morris University.
These boys are my heroes. They come every week to spend time with my children.
At Robert Morris University, every student is expected to reach out to others.
They can teach them something no one else can.
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
They're role models to the children, and homework comes way before sports. Their grades have improved, and their lives are just a bit richer.
Okay.
What they do for my kids is truly wonderful.
Change someone's life. It changes yours forever. Robert Morris University.
I call them my lifeline.
We are back here on Campus Stories with our two guests, Art Russell and Zach Cusnati. So, what services does the university provide for you guys, for veterans, specifically for veterans?
Well, we have the vet center to go to. Can always get on there and hang out with the other vets, or if you need to talk to someone, Heather's always down there, Dan's always down there. Also, you have Captain Thompson, who's with ROTC, and Staff Sergeant Macy, who's down there with the National Guard. They're always willing to help out anytime you need someone to talk to, be there just to hang out. Anything's on your mind, any issues, there's always someone there to talk to.
And that is below the weight facilities and near
Jefferson.
the study hall in Jefferson.
Yes.
How did these services compare to, did you guys look into other universities and compare these facilities? How did that work out?
Whenever I was first looking around, I talked to friends, and they said you should go to RMU. They liked it there. I talked to some other people when I went to my National Guard unit, because I still have some National Guard commitment time left. A couple guys there going to RMU. They say Yellow Ribbon program, vet center's down there. So that's when I looked into it, and I started comparing around, and no one else really had a vet center on campus with the Yellow Ribbon program to make everything just nice and easy flow through. So coming here wasn't stressful as far as applying and going through the whole process, because I did my applying, talked to Heather and Dan, and they just knocked everything out of us for me.
That's pretty much like I talked to CCAC, and I don't even know which way they were running. They were all over the place. It was just aggravating, and I said, screw it, because I thought I was going to be saving money by going to CCAC originally. And I knew Robert Morris is higher than the state average, or the highest state school, and that's why I was worried my GI Bill wasn't going to cover all of it. But after talking to Dan, like I literally called him like January 2nd, and I started the spring semester. There was no issues.
So what could be added at the university or improved maybe even to further your experience on the university level?
I would say, like, as a transition from not being in school for such a long time and like coming out of the military and then jumping into school, if something was offered along the lines of being able to take like refresher courses, doesn't have to like count for anything, but being able to like sit into a class, I think it's called audit, to just sit and just get the refresher and the feel of how it's going to be to jump back into something that you haven't done for quite a long time. So when you jump back onto the ground, it flows, and there's not as many bumps and kinks as when you get back into it.
Yeah, there's a lot of nervousness when you first come back, because I was taking finite math and applied calculus on a Saturday morning, and I was like, I haven't done this in about 12 years. And he goes, oh no, it's an introductory, and I'm like, it doesn't sound like it. But once I got in it, I did do good because I'm in math, but I could see how people would really struggle with that class, not being in it for so long. The other thing I think I would change is to make the vet center a little different, bigger. Because you have people who are talking to each other and having a good time, like me and him, but when I need to study, it usually seems like it's not as productive to study. So I'd like to have an extra room where,
So you can't study when I'm around, they're saying, you ain't Christy?
Yeah. Well, it's like you have the TV and stuff, and you're telling stories, and I'm trying to sit there and study macroeconomics.
Yeah, forget that.
Yeah.
Do you guys use the other undergraduate facilities, such as the library or the computer lab that's right across from you guys?
I do. I use the library quite a bit. I like the program of I can just go there, hand my ID, and they can give me the book for the class I have, and then I can knock on any homework or assignments without actually having to buy the book itself. So I use the library quite a bit for that. I do like that option.
I haven't stepped in a library in the last year.
Well, they renovated it just after Christmas break.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, I heard
they
the same
renovated
thing.
it. I do use the computer lab across from the vet center though to print stuff out, but that's usually just to print stuff out. Like I have my laptop I carry with me.
So how does the facility, you talked about how you have someone to talk to and you have a study space. Is there any other way that the vet center downstairs assists you or caters to your needs specifically as a vet here on campus?
We do events. Like last week I brought in Crock-Pot, Isley's Chip Chop ham sandwiches. That was like everybody liked those. The week before, Captain Thompson brought in 5 pounds of meatballs and barbecue sauce.
They were good.
There's intangible stuff like that adds that people don't take for granted.
I got nothing, man. He took that one. He took it all. I let him take it one.
So how do, we've talked a little bit about it, but how do the study skills of a veteran, of someone who's served in the military, how do they differ from what you've seen from traditional undergraduate students?
I don't think they do. I mean, I do last minute cramming like everybody else. Actually, I have a homework assignment I have to do after I'm interviewed here that's due tonight. So it's not vastly different than what you would imagine. Usually the people with kids have slightly more structure and try to squeeze in when they can.
I would say I plan more a lot better. Like when I get my assignments, I see what's due on what time, and I plan accordingly when I can get the most out of my time for a certain class, knock it out before I get to the next one. So I like to plan. I prefer not to scram or cram at the end.
Do you guys find yourselves in classes with other veterans? Do they try to group you guys together and keep you guys together for familiarity purposes, or are you in classrooms a lot of times with regular undergraduate 19 through 23-year-old kids?
Most of mine are with the undergraduate, the 1920s, but I do have some other classes with some vets, and for projects, sometimes most of my professors don't want you to work with the same person all the time, so you kind of one time this time, one time another time. But for the most part, you do recognize another vet, you talk, you socialize. But for projects, stuff like that, usually you just bounce around with everyone in the class, not just focus just with the same people over and over again.
I like to take morning classes and get them out of the way, and I've noticed that the morning classes are usually your freshmen or the younger group of people. Like my public speaking, I think the oldest kid in there is 20. But I've noticed like night classes and weekend classes tend to lend to veterans more because that's the only time they can do it.
Yeah.
But no, they don't specifically try to clump us together, which I think would be nice.
Well, thank you guys for these responses thus far. We will be right back with more questions for our wonderful guests here on Campus Stories, so stick around.
G Morning Sunshine. Wait. Wakey. Text me. Are your parents home later? We can hang. LUV, love you. JK. Holla back. Holla back. Holla back. Are you with your friends? That's lame. We're in a huge fight right now. XO. What'd you dream about? Something I did. Are you on your way to the mall? I'm lonely. Nude pics. Send me some. Text me.
I'm starving. What's for breakfast?
Guten Tag!
Johannes, Franz!
I bring you arts-enriched Raisinblums, fortified with increased test scores and creative problem-solving skills.
It's good!
And good for you. Bobby? Susie? Don't worry, that's just the power of the art!
Feed your kids the arts. For 10 simple ways to learn how, visit AmericansForTheArts.org.
You ever think about buying a bigger place?
Just waiting for a visit from the credit fairy.
There is no credit fairy.
How else will I get a better credit score?
Look, you keep your credit card balances low and only open a new card if you really need it.
No fairy?
There's no magic to improving your credit, but there's help, and it's free. Go to creditfairy.org.
Yes, ready, ready.
Oh, come on, Randy. Animal shelter, here I come. And no, I'm not crazy or emotionally damaged. That's a stereotype. I just belong to a total loser. I'm a good dog. So if you want a pet, adopt. And if you see Randy, tell him he dropped his wallet.
Welcome back to Campus Stories here on RMU TV. So guys, what impact has the military had on your overall life? Not just work and not just schools we've talked about today, but what has the military meant to you throughout the duration of your life as a man?
It's giving you experiences that you can never have doing anything else. You meet people that you would never have, a camaraderie, a bond with the people that you've been with that it's don't know how to put into words, but it's something you have to experience. It's something you'll never forget. You always keep in contact with those people regardless. I got out in like June of last year, and it wasn't like 4 months later I was back down in Texas. I just missed the people down there, just hanging out with some old buddies.
Pretty much what I was going to say. There's just experiences that you couldn't pay to have. And the friends you make. Like I got out in 2007 and I moved back to Seattle the beginning of 2012 and people were still there. That like I could call and go, hey, you still in the area? I go, hey, yeah, come on, let's go drink. But yeah, I think a lot of people take it for granted that are in the service until afterwards, because I know I'll be telling like my kids, my grandkids,
oh, yeah.
I still have my uniform. You know, I have my hat, I got my medals. You know, it's just something you can pass down. That I'm not going to pass you my RMU class ring. You know,
telling stories of how your bunkmate refuses to get up for chow in the morning when you tell him he specifically tells you to wake him up like 4 times. Eric Dotson talking to you.
So really quick before we run out of time here, what does it mean to you then when you see the American flag, when you hear the national anthem? What does that mean that you feel like has been intensely gratifying because you were in the military?
Definitely. It's something that before I joined I didn't pay any attention to, like national anthem. I'm like, let's just get this over with, let's start the game, etc. Now you see the flag and it has a different meaning to you. You hear the national anthem, and when you see people who don't respect it, it angers you. It does. You've seen what the things you've gone through for that flag, and know what other people have gone through, and people have given their lives for that flag, and you see people disrespect it, and it angers me.
The same way. I have pride when I look at it, and before I originally didn't care, and then afterwards, like the missing man formation, I always tear up with that. I always take my hat off. I'm always silent. I don't say a word. I actually almost got into a fight with a guy after the national anthem because he was making light of the words and changing them up during the national anthem, and as soon as it was done, I put my hat on, I turned around, and I told him, you don't have to like the government, but you will respect the people that serve under that flag.
Yes, sir.
And
well, thank you both very, very much for coming on to the show today. That is all the time we have for today here on Campus Stories. On behalf of our guests and our always awesome technical crew, I'm your host Vince Russo, and we'll see you all again next week. Take care, everyone.